This episode is proudly brought to you by our wonderful sponsors at Galaxy Finance. Call them on 1300 91 7740. The great ones, they're different. They really are. Not better, just different. Sure, there's a physical power, a mental strength, a complex but resolute constitution too. There's a whole lot more than just the measurables. That's something else, that intangible. It separates us from them. Welcome to the Legends series on Andy Raymond Unfiltered. Some like him, some don't. Those that actually know him, they love him. It's not a popularity contest for this bloke. It's about winning. Only winning. But who is Ricky Stuart?
I've never had that question asked me before, Andy. I'd say that Kaylee just sang out in the background. Could she answer that? Mate, I'd like to think that, people would recognise me as a person who's been involved for a very long time in rugby league, a guy who loves his mates and cherishes his family. And it's something in COVID that has had a great bearing on us all, being closer and spending more time with family. And I must say, it's actually been fun from my point of view, being in lockdown, having more time with the family, especially two boys who are locked up in the house, can only go out to footy training or work. They've got to come home for dinner, so it's good.
What's the difference between the private and the very public Ricky Stuart?
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge difference. I don't need to go right into it, but it's a massive difference, to be honest, Andy. It's you're in a very public position as a coach. Your every move and decision is accounted for daily. You know, you haven't got the opportunity to be getting a review every 6 months. It's you're reviewed every day, and sometimes now with how social media is. Media, the amounts and the number of people that are involved in the game from a media perspective, you might be judged 2 to 3 times a day now. So completely different as a person, though.
I think it's a shame there has to be a differentiation, but it does. It's 2020. Do you find yourself having to pull back, change tact on something you really want to say because you know it's not politically correct, you know it won't go down well? Do you have to filter Ricky Stuart?
No, I try not to, Andy. I try to bring. I have to sometimes try and bring my job into my personality when it's public, to probably bring that little bit of political correctness in that I don't agree with. And it's probably to be, the professional that you have to be in regards to a head coach. But look, I think it's important that people see your personality and your DNA through your coaching. And I don't filter that. If I filter that, I don't think I'm coaching well, or I'm not coaching true. I think it's important for the players to believe in me, and the only way they can believe in me is by being myself, my own DNA and my own personality, own character. And if I'm trying to pretend to be something else, it's certainly not believing in the person that I am. So I've got to have myself in my profession. But as I say, you know me from a professional point of view, and you've also known me very well as a bloke you can have a beer with at the pub.
Can the public life and pressures of being a professional sporting coach suck the character out of a bloke? Because I've witnessed that, what I believe to be just that with a few guys. Some lose the ability to trust. Some lose the passion for the game because it becomes a job. Some simply just can't relax. Do any of those ring true with you?
I lost a lot of passion for the game probably about 4 years ago. I was coaching because I enjoyed coaching. I didn't coach because I enjoyed rugby league. I wanted my team, my club to win. I feel a refreshness now. I feel a new energy. But no, I lost a lot of passion for the game. I feel I love of it for a number of years. Fortunately, I hung in there and I'm still involved in it. But I think one of the great things for me, Andy, is that I'm not involved in social media. I think social media sucks the life out of a lot of people, and they fall into believing the numbers and numbers of different opinions. The only opinion I take any notice to or respond to is from family and mates. When you got mates telling you that you're a dickhead, you got to pull your head in. That's when you listen. You've got mates telling you, that I don't know about that choice or that decision, or I don't agree or believe with what you said. You have that discussion, and then all of a sudden, if you're in the wrong, that's when you change tack. Because they've got your interests at heart. People on different platforms of opinion. That doesn't bother me. That's an opinion to them, but a lot of it is bias.
Double question. What do you love about coaching and what pisses you off about it?
Nobody understands what goes into coaching. Everybody thinks you go to training and you coach football and you got nothing else to do for the rest of the day. My greatest responsibility is I look out for my player. I coach to care. You're a boss, you're a coach, you're a mate. Some of them, Andy, you're a real father figure to, and they're all different headings there for a number of different individuals, because I've got 36 in my group. You got a second grade team, you got under 18s, 20s, and 16s, and you want to be seen as a person who cares for all of them, and I do. That's what I love. The hardest thing is, mate, it's the constant spotlight on every decision, every choice you make.
It doesn't stop,
that's
does
hard.
it?
No, that's why I've got to have. You talk about family and mates. They're so important around this job. And I'm talking about me individually. I'm not talking about any other coach. I'm talking about me, because I lean on those people so much.
Yep.
And it's usually through losing.
Okay.
Because it's a great job when you're winning. You bounce out Monday mornings when you win, but losing, and this is me, I don't handle it well. I've got better with making decisions around around losing, but that's the hard part of the job when you find a rut. Nobody knows coaching until you've lost 4 in a row, I promise you.
Want to know what's coming up on the Legends series? Stalk us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at @TheAndyRaymond. It's difficult to break down exactly, but if you had to sort of make an educated guess, what percentage of your job is coaching footy tactics compared to, very simply, as you said, just guiding young men on their life journey to give them the best chance of excelling physically on a weekend?
I've those percentages, if you asked me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 18 years ago when I started, the percentage of strategy, the percentage of tactic, coaching would far outweigh. far outweigh the mentor, the mate to a player, the care for the player. Well, not to say that I didn't care for the boys, but it was far outweighed by having to do football. Now as I've matured and got older and learnt more from coaching, I've delegated more role of coaching to my assistants.
Yep.
They provide a lot of attention to detail in regards to the skill, the execution of what strategy or tactic plan we've got to put in place. And it's working for us. It allows me to spend more time on coaching, but just not coaching football. I'm big on getting the athlete, the footy player, to the sideline in best physical condition, which I've got a high performance manager and a team to do, and in best mental preparation, because they can all play football. They can have the best plan in the game, but if they're physically not there or if they're mentally not there, it doesn't matter what plan, what practice or drill you've been doing all week. Physically and mentally, they can't apply it. I would much prefer to have no plan, but have the natural instinct of a footballer, hit the sideline, mentally focused and physically right to play.
I know how much you care for your players, and I would suggest our listeners already have figured that out. Because you're so close, how much does it hurt telling a player they've been dropped or there's no room for them on the roster and they've got to move on? Not as a boss, as a bloke. How does that play on your emotions?
The hard part about being close to your player, there's two things with that. When you have to tell a player that he's not in the squad or the option for him would be brighter to be looking at another club, I just believe I'm okay if I'm telling them the truth.
Okay.
And I'm shocking because I got bad body language when I'm bullshitting, and it's easily picked on me, so I try not to.
On the other side of that, what does it do for you to tell an 18 or 19-year-old kid his dreams are about to come true and he's about to make his debut?
It makes up for all the hard days where you got to tell them that they are no longer involved, or sort of you can't find a spot in your squad for them, or they're dropped. But going back to that first question, when you have to put a player back to second grade or under 20s, you tell him why. Yep. Once you tell him why, if he doesn't agree with you, that's fine. But it's an opinion that you have to share.
Yep.
When they're no longer involved in your squad, there's usually reasons for it, and those reasons have to be discussed.
Yep.
The hard part about it, mate, is where I get let down is when they're not doing the right thing by the team, not me, the team, the club, more importantly themselves. When they get themselves into trouble, I'll always give a dickhead a second chance. I haven't got a no dickheads policy. I've got a bigger word for the policy I got. But for every mistake I made, if I'd have been kicked out of the game, I would have been out a long time ago. So fortunately, I had people that gave me a little bit of a redemption and second chance. So I'm all for that, giving another guy a chance. But a person that makes wrong choices and sometimes a wrong decision, they can be fixed and not. But I'm all for helping other young blokes out too. What's
pressure mean to you? How do you deal with it?
Well, that's high performance. That's being involved in elite competition. Pressure is it's what the challenge of the week is, of performing at the highest level and competing at the highest level and winning. That's the pressure that comes with it. I've probably handle pressure now differently to when I started coaching. But when I started coaching, I was probably coaching like I was playing. And when there was pressure, I would take it head on, and I'd probably have a lot more intensity in handling that pressure. And that probably fell into my coaching early in my days. But I find a lot more composure and I'm more relaxed around pressure now. This probably comes with age too, mate, maturing. And I think with my kids, with Emma 23, 21 and 20, 19, the two boys, They've matured me too in regards to how you look at things and handling pressures.
I've known you as a bloke for 30 years. I'd describe you as intelligent and good-looking.
First time I've ever...
Sorry, that was a typo, only joking. I'd describe you as extremely mentally strong, intensely focused and uncompromising in your beliefs and values, and loyal. Am I on the mark as to how you see yourself?
I don't know. You'd probably have to ask one of my mates. The good-looking bit, I totally agree with, mate. How would I know? But as I say, you listen to your mates, and I do, and they're the guys. They're your best gauge in regards to you as a person, and you judge I think you judge people with the people they hang with. I really believe in that quote.
Are you mentally strong? I think you are.
I wouldn't be still coaching if I wasn't, mate. I know I am, because it's given me longevity in the game. I went through a tough period there, Andy, for 3 or 4 years where it could have broke me, and the easy thing would have been for me to pull the pin and just say, I've been real happy. I've done both, played, coached. I've still got a bit more time in coaching, and I'll know myself when I've had enough. But if you're not mentally tough, there's a lot of things in life, not just football. There's a lot of things in life that will beat you, because, in today's environment, we talked about social media earlier in our discussion. Mental toughness, there's a number of different types of ways you can look at it. Resilience, have confidence and belief in your own personality, have confidence and belief in your choices. There's lots of ways to describe mental toughness, but mate, really, if you haven't got some of that confidence and belief, the mental toughness, resilience we talk about, you're not made for coaching.
You're listening to Andy Raymond Unfiltered, the Legends series. We have corporate and private sponsorship packages available. You set the terms. For further information on how you can become part of the team, go to the website andyraymondunfiltered.com.au and hit the sponsorship tab. Every side needs to be balanced, on the field and off. We spoke about it in short form a little earlier, but how important is it for a coach not only to find the right player, but also the right character off the field?
The longer I'm in the game, the more I coach, the more important I'm finding character in the ability, in the makeup of the player. Yes, they have to be able to play the game. Yes, they have to have the ability and the level of confidence to get them to play at the top level at the NRL. But from all the time I've managed individuals and teams, the guy that has actually won out is the person who, yes, has the ability and has the ethic to work hard. A good bloke, I call it, Andy. And it's all. I'm a pretty simple person, and I think with my club, my group of players at our top level at the moment, I've got 36 good blokes, and we spoke about it earlier. There's no dickhead policy thing. I haven't got that. I just want good blokes there, because sometimes good blokes make an error of judgment, but a good bloke can turn that around quickly. That's where we give them that second chance.
Yep.
And it's very important that the players understand what my views are, because I've always said this, Andy, for a long, long time, that a football player will play his game on the field the way he lives his life off it. You're taking shortcuts on your mates, you're taking shortcuts on your parents, you're lying to your parents, you'll take shortcuts on the field. If you're not true to yourself off the field, you won't be true to yourself to your mates on the field, and you're going to be the guy that's actually the weakness, the weak link.
Inside those 36 players that every coach has, there also has to be a variation. Quickly, I'd like to get your assessment on, in your group, who's the serious one?
The serious one in my playing group?
Yeah.
The serious one. I've got a couple there, and when I say serious, they're not highly intense people where they are, they can't have a bit of fun, but the more mature, serious ones, you're looking at your Josh Hodgsons and Jared Crokers, which is obviously why they co-captains. Elliot Whitehead's very studious about the game. His football, he'll make a good coach one day. Sammy Williams, they're probably more the senior players of the team. Sia Soliola, they can be the serious ones, but yet then also make sure that there's a bit of laughter around the joint.
Who's the joker?
I've got a few. Believe it or not, Papa is
Is that right?
In his own little quiet way, a very, very funny guy. He got the boys together the other day and played a joke on them, and I'll let him tell you if he wants to the day you actually do a podcast with him. But he is a character, Papa. But then, the intense ones such as a Johnny Bateman can be very, very intense, but then he's a character as well. There's all different individuals make up a team, and as long as at the end of the day they all have the same beliefs and they're all after the same prize, you need the different individuals. That's important.
Who's your leader? Who's the tough one that they follow at training, that they want on the field because he makes them believe in themselves?
Probably the three boys I mentioned there in Papa, Bateman, Jack Whiten, and Elliot. They are uncompromising, those four, and all in their own different ways. Jack's learning how to be an integral part of a team from his position he's playing. He's only played a year and a half at 5'8", and when you touch the ball so many times on the football field, you've got a lot of choice to make when his greatest quality is his toughness. His raw power, strength, his explosion, his toughness. He's learning the finesse of the game. Papa is Papa. We know what Papa brings, and then talk about Elliot and Bateman. They're ruthlessly tough people. They're ruthlessly competitive, and with one of those boys on the field, we're a better football team. With the four of them on the team at the same time, gives us, gives me a great team to coach.
That leadership role in a club environment with young men, often loose young men, is so important. It seems to be becoming less and less. When you started, if you got out of line, an old-timer would get in your face and pull you up. Can you still get away with that in politically correct 2020?
Well, I spoke to you earlier about me not changing my personality towards coaching, and I think they have to. The boys know what I'm like. I ask for greater assistance off my senior players now to look at behavioural issues around the squad, and there's not a lot. But if it's something that can be done without me knowing about it, if there's something that can be fixed without having to come and talk to me about it, which mostly that's done, I think it's fantastic, because then I've got a good, mature senior person and or group to be able to look after things that I don't need to know about. And that does get done. I've got a number of, talking to those names there a moment ago, and Sir Soliola, and he's another relentlessly tough individual. The strength of your senior players is the strength of your squad overall. It doesn't just come down to your coach. The strength of your senior players. And I believe we've had a rise in the ability of our squad, our club, our successes as a footy team and individuals over the last 2 to 3 seasons because of the strength of our senior people. They're taking on a lot more of a mature role towards our end results. We put a amount of time into helping the leaders become leaders and understanding what a leader is.
Culture seems to be a buzzword. Obviously, it's initiated by a head coach, but primarily, is it the players that drive it?
100%.
Okay.
You can create the vision, but they've got to uphold the standards of the vision. And culture is a buzzword. And I like to probably look at more of standards of how we train, the standards of how we play, the standards of how we want to be known as a part of the team, as an individual part of the bigger squad. You've got to make yourself personally accountable, and by driving standards, everybody is a leader. There's nobody who can't be a leader. The person that doesn't want to be a leader is, I believe, selfish. Everyone's got some type of leadership quality, and where that is in the day, whether it's creating a little bit of fun around the joint. Fortunately, like, that's a social leader. He's creating some fun around a downtime.
Yeah.
Whether that's driving the standards on the field, driving the standards in the gym, making sure guys aren't jumping physio, making sure guys are doing their stretching and making their doing their individual skill work before or after training. There's always somebody who can, and usually in most humble, quiet guys, such as a Dynamis Louis, they're wonderful leaders for me because they get the job done without any fuss. That, for me, is the managing of a greater group comes from the real strength of your leaders, and that creates culture, and that creates standards. High standards are meant to be hard to drive and hard to sustain.
Any elite athlete will tell you it takes more than just being physically fit to be at your best. And our friends at Galaxy Finance can have you at the top of your financial game. From home loans to investments and self-managed super funds, they provide complete solutions. Call Galaxy Finance on 1300 91 7740 and mention you heard it on Andy Raymond Unfiltered to get an obligation-free chat to see how Galaxy Finance can assist you. Do you like being a boss? Is it natural to you?
I don't see myself as a boss. I never have. But I don't see myself as the big dog walking around the field or the facility, our high performance facility. So, but I don't believe anybody else should be either.
Is the emotion of rugby league as a coach the same as what it was as a player for you?
Different. The emotion of I'd play again tomorrow if I could, Andy. It's easier. But the emotion of coaching is seeing people improve. There's nothing better to see a young man that you've had in the under-20s comes through and play a little bit of Premier League and then second grade or New South Wales Cup, and then bang, you go and hand him a jumper. Seeing people improve as individuals, and that's not just in football, that's as people. Since I've been here now, I've seen guys grow from their first grade game to get married, to have children. That to me is as much a part of winning as is in coaching, as much a part of winning. Seeing that in an individual is for me something that in 20 years' time I'll remember more so than just winning.
Because you were so good as a player, and you were, do you have the tendency to perhaps expect too much from your players who may not be as naturally gifted an athlete as you were?
I appreciate the big rap about that. I don't see myself as that great a player. Yeah, I may have been a good player, but I was very, very fortunate in who I played with. I had wonderful talent around me, which made me a better player. But yes, I do have a probably too higher expectation on some of my players. Not all of them. Some of them I probably haven't got the higher expectation I should have. But then I find out through my assistants that I'm probably leaning on an individual or whatnot. He needs to be driven more, so I do. But there's been times where I can go too hard. And I've got to make sure I've got a good balance there. But yes, there's been a number of individuals over the years that I've probably been too hard on. But in saying that, I wouldn't have been if I didn't think they had the talent and or the mindset to be able to achieve it.
Because you're a 7, are you particularly hard on the halfbacks? And I'll call bullshit if I think you're not telling the truth here.
That's been noted a lot, that I've been very, very hard on halfbacks. Yeah, I am hard on them, but mate, that's you run the show. Halfback runs the show. I don't care what anyone says. You own results as a halfback, and that's how I was grown up as a player. I remember a day playing at Penrith, and after the game, we're walking off. Melbourne come up and said to me, "You lost that for us today." If I said that to a player today, I'd be in the papers the next day and he'd have me sacked.
Yeah.
But I prefer to grow up that way with that toughness, because I tell you learn a lot quicker. I bet I played well the week after.
Yeah.
And that's why I am quite a thorough with watching my halves. I'm really enjoying the growth of Jack Whiten.
Yep.
And I'm really enjoying my time now with George Williams. You know, he's thrown a couple of cutout passes at the moment, and his last 2 have been intercepted. And I have coaches and I have others who are frustrated with it. I enjoy it. And I grabbed him this week. I said, mate, fuck it. Don't worry about what other people say. Just listen to me.
Yep.
I said, we'll score off one of these as we have this season. But we just showed him where he's actually achieving the pass and where he's not achieving the pass, the field position of where he's passing the football and who he's got in front of him and how many he's got on his outside, showing the little technical side of it, the detail side of it, but then don't lose the will of wanting to be that instinctive player, that spontaneous type of player, because the game loves that type of player and the game's better for it.
Who's had the greatest influence on your coaching career?
Well, probably there's 3 people, and one in Tim Sheens who had a greater influence than the other 2 I'll mention to you in a moment about. But Tim had me for about 8 years.
Yep.
As the head coach, and I learned so much through him. But I learned then that relationships with your coaches, Bob Fulton, Phil Gould, I learned then that the relationship with a player coach is really important. They cared for their players. They felt that they had responsibility toward their players, and I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tim showed us how to train. He showed us what hard work was about, and he showed us how to prepare. I'm very big on I'll have a player any day that prepares well, more so than just knows the game plan.
Okay.
It's easy just to read the plan and understand the plan, but when you're not preparing well physically, mentally, it don't matter about the plan. Tim taught us. He taught us how to train hard and how to prepare well. I was very fortunate in my representative career to have 2 coaches such as Bob Fulton and Phil Gould.
Mm-hmm.
Distinctively different, but they had Gus was that very, very. He was highly motivating coach who had a Warren Ryan was his mentor. Had that scientific understanding, tactical, strategic brain of the game. And he taught me a lot in my short time as an Origin halfback to him. Bozo also, who knew the game and looking for that extra 1% in what he could find, was the most competitive, ruthless person that I've ever had in as a coach.
Tim Sheens, you can't give a bloke a bigger rap than having a thorough look through his resume. And he's sprinkled a bit of dust over yourself, Craig Bellamy, Kev Walters, Laurie Daly, Mal Meninga, even Wayne Bennett. That is an amazing rap that he could impart so much knowledge on so many different people and then watch them become successes.
it's not so much different knowledge. It's the knowledge that he owns. I still talk to Tim today. I was texting Tim in England an hour before me and you started to talk.
Okay.
Mate, it's not the amount of knowledge, albeit he has a vast knowledge of the game, but it's right. It's correct. It's correct knowledge. You know, so many people have got so much knowledge. 50% of it is probably not going to be useful or it's their own brand. But Sheensy has shown with the amount of people that he's had in his teams or his grasp in regards to coaching or teaching them how to teaching them about the game, goes to show you it's quite evident that his information still stands the test of time today in regards to the strategic side of the game, the way you get your team prepared, just building rosters. Major part of a head coach's job in building a roster. I spend a lot of time on that each week. The thing with Tim, though, mate, is he's a friend as much as a coach.
Yep.
And that's part of my DNA, mate, part of my personality is I'm very much a relationship type of person. You know, I'm more of probably with my leadership, it's probably more visionary. I don't have to be best mates with my players. I don't even need them to be my friend. But the relationship I need them to have with me is they need to trust me, because I won't, like Sheensy, and it's probably what I learned off Tim. You're doing everything unselfishly for the best of the player. And that's off the field and on the field. As long as they trust me, I don't mind if they like me or not, as long as they trust me.
If you're enjoying Andy Raymond Unfiltered, the Legends series, we'd love for you to go to Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening and subscribe to the podcast and give us a 5-star rating and review. Best weekly review wins an Unfiltered Trucker's hat. We know your passion. It's on show every week from your seat on the sideline. I can't count how many times you've yelled at me, Andy, tell those fucking cameras to get out of my face. But I want to know, most importantly...
Tell Steve Crawley if he wants another interview to move these fucking cameras.
Yeah, exactly right. I'd cop it, every second Canberra game. What does your wife, Kaylee, say to you when she sees you blowing up on the TV? Do you ever get the lecture?
You're a fuckwit. No lectures. She understands. Yeah. She understands how important the win and loss is, mate. That's why I'm lucky with Kaylee, because she's grown up with it as a player with me, and then as a coach. But she gets the importance of the win-loss.
Yeah. Do you get a giggle out of seeing other coaches blow up? I know Craig Bellamy's a great mate of yours. It still makes me laugh. It just never gets old.
He's worse than me. He is a dickhead in the box, mate, honestly.
Yes.
He could be up by 18 and he's going off his head. I sit back and laugh and laugh and laugh at him, and then I sit back and think, Jesus Christ, I bet you they're all sitting back laughing at me.
Speaking of Craig, your mateship has stood the test of time. Do you see other coaches as rivals, as mates, as colleagues of the coaching fraternity, or as the enemy to a degree?
Enemies and rivals.
Yep. That's just you. You're so competitive.
I don't know, but they want what I want, mate.
Yeah.
And that's why I've always said it's hard coaching against Craig. We are best friends, and it's a difficult assignment, and it's we both understand the professional side of it. After 80 minutes, we have a beer together, and we move forward. But I just see them as competitors, and it's not my job to like them. It's a matter of trying to get what I need.
It's been an interview about the person more so than the coach or the player. On that, last year's grand final and the way you conducted yourself during the game and after the game, after one of the biggest fuck-ups ever, you showed incredible class, composure and dignity. Were you simply lost for words? Were you overstimulated emotionally that you had nothing left to give? Or was acceptance simply the best way out of a difficult situation?
The first 4 people I shook hands with were the 3 officials, and 4 officials, I should say, and then Robinson. So that was a sign of, game's done, well done. With the officials, Andy, I actually understood the situation he was in.
Yep.
Ben Cummins, and I say this a number of times, I've got myself in a lot of strife over the years with saying what I want to say after during a press conference.
Yep.
It's not personal about referees. It was once in one situation, but in most of those situations, it's never been a personal thing. It's just something stupid I've said in a press conference.
Yep.
And I've spoken to referees' bosses and individual referees about this. I've apologised to Bill Harrigan about a blue I had with him, and it was my fault. But I grabbed Bill at the Hall of Fame dinner 3 years ago and put my hand out, and I said, I don't mind if you don't talk to me ever again, but it's just a matter of me making sure that I'm comfortable with apologising to you. And now we're back talking again when we see each other. But I could feel what the pressure he was under right there and then. I knew what was happening, and the easiest thing for me was for him to understand that it was as much as my disappointment on what I thought was a mistake, nothing could be changed there and then, and I didn't want that individual in regards to Ben Cummins having any pressure or anger from me.
I thought, and many others thought, you're an example of what is good about rugby league that night. Are you proud of the way you handled yourself? Because there were a number of different ways you could have gone, and you chose a very admirable one. Were you proud of it?
Oh, yes, I am now. For the fact, 2 facts. One, that Ben and I had lunch together during the off season this year. He came down and did a scrimmage for me, and we went and had a sandwich with a couple of his other refs.
I hope he paid.
I actually shouted. But it was nice to know that, there was an error, or that's if they see it as an error.
Yep.
But we're still communicating. Was that me 10 years ago? I don't know if that would have been the same situation, but I didn't know with what I was doing was going to be so public either, Andy.
Okay.
Like I didn't go into that press conference and not criticise anybody or anything. I didn't go out and shake their hands on the fact that everybody's going to see it. I just went about my way in regards to how I wanted to go about it. There was a lot of media and publicity about it the next day, but I didn't do it for that. I just did it because I thought that was the right way to go about it.
I've got to ask, was there a moment, was it later that night, was it the next day, the next week, where you exploded and vented your anger? Did it come out at some stage? Maybe anger's the wrong word. Anger, frustration, disappointment, emotion, all of those combined. Was there one moment it overspilled?
Yes, more than one moment.
Yeah.
And you can underline every word you just said. It's hard enough getting to a grand final.
Yep.
Not to say that we should have won. The Roosters were good there for 6 or 7 minutes and we fell asleep. And we were a better team on the night and should have won the game in my eyes, but we didn't. And it is very hard to swallow because it is so hard to get there.
Yeah.
Winning the game is easier than getting there, as you would know, mate. You've been around for a long time.
There's a boxing terminology, take it out of the judge's hands. And I heard that used in reference to the grand final. Were there opportunities in that GF that you look back on now and think we could have taken it out of the judge's hands if only we had done this?
There was 2 opportunities. One where I won't go into it, but there was 2 opportunities. Yeah, absolutely.
Was 2020 always going to be different and harder because of the way 2019 finished?
No, not at all. We've grown. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing with the team this year. We've grown. We've bounced off that. We've got a big game this weekend against the Roosters on Saturday night, and I was just talking to a guy who does a lot of our mental preparation this morning, and we're talking about it. And win, lose, or draw on with this game, and this podcast will come out after it. The way the players have handled this week, I can see their growth and maturity in the preparation of what we experienced last year leading into the semi-finals and the grand final. So, overall, the squad has grown from the experience we gained last year from the big games we had to play in and be involved in.
How much must give you a bit of satisfaction seeing young men grow, learn a lesson and mature and settle down?
Yes. It's a little bit like Timmy Sheens. He's got he had me from the age of 20 to 28-year-old, and then he parted ways with the club, and I went my way, he went his way, and he's seen my 3 kids grow up. He's seen me get married. We're still talking, communicating, and great mates today. That's all a part of it, And I often say to these boys, I don't just coach you for now. I want to be having a beer with you in 20 years' time, and I can't give you any more of a truer feeling for me as a coach, because that's how it is, and that's not going to happen with every player I've coached, but I can promise you it happens with the majority of them.
Rick, a wonderful insight into the man, not so much the player or the coach. We'd love to have you back on one day and we'll relive your playing days. You, sir, are a legend. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Legends series. Throughout the month of September, we're dropping a new episode every third day. Be sure to subscribe to Andy Raymond Unfiltered wherever you're listening. And to ensure you don't miss any news on what's coming up, follow our social media pages at The Andy Raymond. Dropping Thursdays, starting October 1st, it's the Weekly Wodge. It's a little bit of this, plenty of that. A mix of the serious and the not so. Interviews, segments, specials and special guests. If you enjoy the lighter side of the wonderful world of sport and fart jokes, you'll enjoy the Weekly Wodge. Come back soon, legends.